in 6, 13, 17, those questions we need to insert.
You know, basically my syntax, good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
I have just one question. You know, yesterday we discussed lots of syntax.
Okay.
But I tried those yesterday. But I also, in some cases, you introduced like left join. But I made my syntax with respect to inner join. But the results are same.
Okay. Share me your computer. Do you know how to share it? Share me your desktop. Click on the share screen.
Actually, somewhere in the Word, it's not on my desktop.
Oh, okay. So,
But I will share you. I will put it there and then I will share you.
The only way you will not have different result is that you don't have like a patient record properly created. So like you have patient, but you don't have corresponding record in the address or insurance, then only the record will show up. If
okay,
you use
I will share you. It's not in all of them. It's just in one or two. Where where I just saw it very precisely and I find it okay whether you're inner joining or whether you're left joining.
Okay.
I'll share you then maybe. Or maybe I'm missing something. So
sure.
So one more doubt. In question number 6, find all patients who do not have major illness, and also in 13, find all patients who does not have medical insurance. In such cases, only left join comes.
Can you repeat that? Sorry, I couldn't catch it.
Sixth question, find all patients who do not have major illness.
Yeah, so that one, so you are checking whether there is a corresponding record in the major illness table or not.
Share that I have.
Yeah, sure.
So how to share this one?
Click on the share screen. Are you using the application Zoom app, right? You should see at the bottom share screen.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Just click on that.
Okay. Yeah.
And click on the screen.
Okay.
And let me make sure multiple participants. Yep. Okay, I can see it now.
In this, I have created 2 more patients. Like,
can you run the select star from patient and select star from major illness at the top? Yep. So if you go to scroll down to the patient table only, all the way at the bottom. So let me see which new ones you added.
Yeah.
So you added the Saranya 10, 11, and 10, 12, looks like, right?
Yeah.
10, 11, and 10, 12. Okay. So let's see what you have in the major illness. If you can scroll down in the major illness.
Okay. But in major illness, I didn't create any.
Which is fine because that's what you, so 10, 11, and 10, 12 should show up in your query.
11,
okay. Because you don't have corresponding record for those, patient ID 10, 11 and 10, 12, they don't have any major illness record. Is that, I can see that.
So one more question, this NA means what does NA means?
NA is not applicable, but we are not using that field. So just ignore that for now from our query perspective. Yep.
Now I will run this query.
Yeah, your query seems correct. So yeah, those 2 patients will show up. Yeah.
I have inserted will comes up, right?
No, you have brand new patient you added, right? Okay. So yeah. That is, but then you don't have major illness record. Mm-hmm. So only patient. So if you run like a first 3 lines of your query, right? Mm-hmm. If you just run like first 3 lines. Mm-hmm. So here you will see the last 2 records. So you have everything when you have lab join, right? It will select all the record from the patient. Wow. and whatever is matching from the major illness. So if there is nothing matching, then it will return null for that.
13 and 14.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
That is correct.
And we don't use full join at all?
Full outer join, I mean, you typically will not use it because what it will do is it will select from both tables, whether there are matching records or not. So it will combine, it's like a combine. So if you, let's say you are doing patient Well, I don't think we have that those type of records, but yesterday I showed you guys a patient bill example, right?
Mhm.
Whether I have where I added a patient record in the patient bill table, but I
Right.
did not have a patient
Right.
for that. So if you want to find out all the patient that exists in the patient plus whatever is in the patient bill, then you use full outer join in that
Okay.
case. Yeah, instead of
So
left join,
basically,
right.
the role of outer join is that will just drag all
Yep,
type
yep,
of column that is
yeah,
present both there.
yep, yep. You have to say full outer join. Okay, not just outer join. It's a full outer join. So there is a left join, there is a right join, there is a inner join,
Yeah, and
and
full
there is
outer.
a full outer
Full
join.
outer.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now we will dive into a little bit further into the scripting side of things. So a little bit programming now.
Okay.
So that's the session number 4. Okay. So we are talking about SQL scripting. So by definition, the SQL script, right, is nothing but a collection of SQL statements, okay, that you execute in one operation. So what happens is, if you are running like let's say, for example, you are inserting into bunch of tables, right? So you can't go like a run one insert at a time. Your program needs to execute all the statements together and populate a bunch of tables. And we will work through that exercise, I think, a little bit later today so that you understand. But a SQL script is nothing but a bunch of SQL statements, which makes up a program for us. So it can be anything. It can include select statements, it can include insert statements, update statements, or any other programming logic that you might have for the SQL. So like any program flow statements as well. So typically in the programming, you have if else condition, some of the looping statements, which are nothing but programming logic. So we will be building that slowly as well. But for now, just think of it SQL script as a mini program. And so we will see how we go about building that. You guys already saw the comments, how to specify the comments, right? So you have, you can do the SQL comments here, right? Just like that, or one line at a time, you can put dash dash in front of it. So that's, you can comment out those lines. So far you guys are writing in the SQL query analyzer, and you can apply the syntax for the scripts. I think you guys are writing the script. You just don't know what is called, but it is called mini script. So if I have the SQL statements here, and if I execute all these things together, this is nothing but a mini script. This is what I'm executing a SQL script here. That's what I'm doing here. Okay. So these all statements are called SQL script, part of the SQL script. Now, as I said, right, these comments, so this is where how I commented it. So this is a single line comment, and if I have to comment multiple lines, I can apply this syntax, and it's a multi-line comment in my program. Okay. So that's a very straightforward thing in the scripting side of things. All right, so let's move on to the another programming concept or scripting concept. Is anybody familiar with heard the word variable? Any of you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So this variable is used in any programming language, okay? No matter whether you use Java programming, C# programming, SQL programming, Python, they all have a concept called variables, okay? So what the variables are, Variables are nothing but it's kind of like a in-memory data storage. Okay, so let's take a look at the one example here, calculator. So I'm running this calculator here. Okay, and I'm doing some operation 6 plus 7. I know what the answer is, but I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to say memory plus. Okay, at this point, I'm going to do memory plus, and then I'll clear out. And then I'm going to do some other operation, right? But when I do memory recall, it will show me the old value, whatever is stored in the program. So what the calculator is using is creating a variable in the memory when the calculator is running. Okay, and they're storing this 13 value into that memory. So if you do any other operation, let's say I can go clear out, do 969 plus multiply 3. If you do memory recall, it will always return that value, stored value. Okay, so these are variables are nothing but memory storage. Okay, that stores a single value. Single value meaning here we are storing 13, which is a single value. Okay, I can store 9 plus 89 and do something like that. But now when I do memory recall, it will always return me 13. So variable always stores a single value. Now if I do some other operation here, divided by 9, and I do memory, store memory plus, okay? And if I do memory clear out again, do memory recall, it will store whatever the new value is. So I can change the values in the storage in the same variable. So this is what I did. I overwrote the value of the memory or the variable, and now my value stored becomes 14 instead of 13 it was previously. Okay, so just keep this one in context. Now once I close this, so when I close this window, that means my program stops running and all the variables are gone at that point. My memory is cleared out. Okay, so if I close it and if I go back in, that value does not exist anymore. So if I go to the calculator again, and if I do, I don't even have memory recall here because that value is cleared out. There is nothing stored within the program. So that's the important concept. So let's take a look at the definition here one more time. So variable is an object that can hold a single data value of specific type. Okay, so that is by definition. And so here, what type was that for us? It was a number, but you can also store dates. You can also store images. Any data type that you have available in the SQL server, you can store that value in the memory. Okay. Now, what's the main purpose of the variable? Why do we do that, right? Why do we need variables? So when you are writing the programs, and you want to do some in-memory calculations. So what you're going to end up doing is you will perform some calculation, store the value into memory, then maybe perform some other operation on the same variable or same value, and maybe do something else, maybe insert into database table, or maybe you just want to print it out on the screen. So you can do multiple operations on a variable value. Okay. So that is the main purpose of the variable, that you want to do some operation, maybe apply some programming logic on the variables, or you just simply want to hold a data value during the programming logic, or you want to ultimately store to the basically database table or something like that. Okay. Now pretty much all the programs, they will use, or any script, rather than that, any script, you will have at least one or two variables that you will be using it. So let me go here and let's work through one example so that it makes a little bit more clear. So I'm going to close out a few things here. All right, so how do we define this so-called variables. Okay, so in the SQL Server, this is the way you can define it. You can say declare, and let's go with something simple, at age, and I'll say what type of variable it is. Okay, so I will say integer. Remember, what are the different types in the SQL Server? You have integer, date time, you have varchar, and you can say varchar 10, or you can say char 10, or you can have image, or what is that? You have float data type, right? So these are different data types that you have available in the SQL Server, right? Basically any data type. So by definition, this is how you can define a variable. Define a variable. Okay, this is the definition of a variable in my program. Now, all the variables hold some value. Okay, so when you declare it, it holds value as a null. By default, it will have a null value. So this one holds a value of null. Okay, so that means it's empty. It doesn't have any value. We haven't assigned anything yet. So how do we assign a value so that we can use this variable properly? So here I have to follow the syntax called set, and I can say set age equals 10. So here what I'm doing is I'm assigning a value of 10 and storing into this variable. So remember the calculator program, right? We are doing memory plus. So what it's doing is storing, is defining some variable in that program and storing whatever value that you had into that variable. And when you do memory recall, it will read the value from the age variable and then print it out in the calculator. So this is the way you can assign a value to variable. Okay, this is the way you can do it. Now, how do we read the value, right? So there are two ways read a value from variable, how to read it. Okay, so first way is you can simply do print at age and it will print on the screen. Or what you can do is select at age. Okay, these are two ways. The difference is when you do print at age, it will simply print on screen. Okay, there is nothing you can do afterwards. It just prints it and it's gone. When you do select at age, so this one will be displayed as a table format, table column format, this value. So value will be displayed as table column format.
So this will be similar to the printf statement that, it's just to print the value.
This one actually you can use it a little bit flexible. So we'll work through that. Print is just printing out when you are debugging the program. You can just use print statement to see, okay, what value this one holds. But this one, if you want to use it in the further in the program, you can use a select, and I'll show you what. But so this is the main statement. You have to use it, okay? But you can just print it out on the screen as part of your debugging process. You can use print.
Okay.
So if I run this program, let me run it. The same way you can run it is execute. So now I'm just printing as a table column, right? So that is the select statement. Okay, this is what I see here. So where did this print go? So that one is typically printed in the messages section. So this is where I can see the effect of the print statement. Print at age is printed in the messages section. Okay. Let me do one more thing here. So let's say if I do set at age is equal 15. And if I do select at age. So at this point, I have defined the variable at the top, right? Or I can say here at age plus 15. Okay, let's do simple mathematical operation on the variable. So everybody's good up to here, right? So here, what I'm doing is I'm setting the age variable value. I'm equals to at age plus 15. So what the output would be in this line? It will be 10
10 plus
plus 15
Plus
equals
25.
25.
25.
Okay, so that is the output I'm expecting. And when I do that, this is the output I get. Okay, the select statement output.
So basically set and select, they are different. They are not same.
They are not same, but you can use to sets the value, and select is basically just selecting the value and outputting basically for that. Set is to actually set the value or change the value of the variable. You can use it. Now here is a caveat. Okay, here is what I can do is select at age plus 15, right? Something like this. Okay, I can also do in the select as well. Okay, so what would be the value here? This point. So what would be in this line, the select line here, what the output will be?
25 plus 15.
25 plus 15, right? So that
Yeah.
would be 40.
40.
So now I'm seeing the 40 value. Okay. So that is the power of variable, and we will see quickly how this is very powerful. The variables, you have to use it in any programming languages. No programming language works without variables. Okay, so you have to get a mastery of the variable. How do you declare it? How do you assign the values? How do you read the values? And how do you perform some operation on the variables? Okay, let me show you one more thing. So far we are not using, we are dealing, this is a database, right? So how do we apply these variables on the database side of things? Strictly, we haven't used any database here. This select statement, right? It's even though it's a select, I don't have any from or anything like that, right? So this is a simply pure select statement. But what if I want to use it in the read a value from a particular column? So let's say, for example, I have select star from patient here. What if I want to read the value of this 1002 patient and have a age, read the value of age, okay, and store it into a variable. So what I'm trying to say here is read a value of patient record, patient ID is equal 1002, and print on screen value of age for patient record 1002 and print it on screen. So how do I go about it? So I know I have to do age, right? That's what I'm trying to read it. Selects age from patient, right? This is my regular syntax. I'm not doing, and what is my, if I just want to print it for patient ID 1002, so I have to specify where clause, where patient ID is equal 1002,
1000.
right? And if I run this, I'm getting a value of 12. Now what we are saying is, I want to read this value and populate this age variable. Okay, and then I want to do some maybe other operation on that, or maybe just simply print it out afterwards. So let's say I want to print at age, and this one should print whatever the value is contained in this set in this age. So in order to do that, to read a value from the column, you're going to write the normal, your scenario here, select statement. But here, what you can do is at age is equal age. You will add that this line so that it will read the value of age, populate the variable, and then I can print it out afterwards. And again, I can do print or select at age, both at the end.
So instead of at age equal to age, we can also supply any other value like say X or A or B. Is it possible?
So value of age here, you are saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it?
Here we are reading from the column values, right?
Okay.
So if you are strictly supplying different value, then you just
So it should be
supply
mandatory
different
that the
value.
column should be.
Go ahead.
So,
What is the question?
No, is it like, I mean, the same column name should be specified here?
Oh, no, you can name anything. Let's say I'd say X here instead of
Okay,
something like that, right? That's what
okay.
you're asking, I guess.
Yeah,
So
right.
let's say declare at X, and I'm going to declare different variable called X. Okay.
Okay,
Instead of this one is age. We'll leave it there. So I can say at X equals age, and then I'll print out at X here and print out at X, something like that. Okay.
okay. Yeah,
So you
this,
can name anything. Variables, you can name it anything. One thing you cannot do is you cannot say like at X space X or a. Let's say you make this mistake, you will see this red line here. It doesn't know what to do. This is not a right syntax. So variable name,
okay,
you cannot supply space. Okay,
okay,
cannot supply space in the variable names. Okay, so here, if I run this query again, okay, print X, and let's do select X both. So now I'm going to run only this query, okay, up to here to here. So I'm not running other things. So if I do control, X. So I'm setting the value here at X is equal age, okay? So if I run this only, then I'll get 12, right? This is the value, and I will get printed out 12 here. So if I do 1005, and if I run this program again, I'll get different value, 23. So whatever the record contains, it will populate in the memory, and then you can use it in your subsequent programming logic, that value. This is very powerful, okay? This is what most likely you will end up using in your SQL scripts. And we'll work through popular using that example a lot more.
okay.
Any question on the variables so far? Okay, so just get familiar with the syntax here, right? So declare, you have to have declare it. We are assigning the value here, then just this is simply for printing, reading the values. If you are doing any operation, you can do that. You can addition, multiplication, whatever you want to do it, and then that your program will work through fine. Here, this is the example of reading the value from the table column and printing it out at that point. Okay. So let's go back. Now, as I said, right, you can supply anything. So let me show you one more example here. So here, let me declare another variable called at current date. Okay. And this time I will say date time. So this one is a date variable that I have declared. And what I can do is a set at current date is equal get date. So now I am reading the value from the function. So it will store the current value into this variable. And then if I want to print it out, let's do simple select at current date. And you can apply all the functions that you learn, okay, on these things. So what I'm doing is I'm setting the today's date into current date value, and then I'm just printing out what this will do, this line. Any idea?
Year.
It will just select and print the year, right, from the current date. So I see 2020 there being printed there, right?
So Harshal,
Yeah.
in this case, select and print function are the same? Is it one or the other?
No, print is just if you typically you will not use the print statement in your program. Only when you are debugging, troubleshooting your code, you can say year, current date, just to see what the value is being printed, what this variable holds during the program running. Okay, that's where you want to use print. But most likely you will use select.
Okay.
So print is just for the debugging purpose. Okay, when you are running the program, you can have a bunch of print statement in there just to see what values, at what point, and what value this variable will contain. So you can just run the program after every line, or you can have something like this. Okay, And if you run it, you will see different values being printed here. Okay, so that you can see my program is working correctly or not. But then you will end up commenting out these lines at end.
Okay.
If your program works correctly, then you will comment out.
Okay.
Yep. Let me show you one more example here. So let's say I have I'm going to read the values, F name. Okay. And here I'm supplying value of 20. And let's say I have two variables. So if your program is using multiple variables, you can do declare separately, something like this. So what I'm doing is I'm declaring two variables in my program. Okay. And then this one is a F name variable and its definition is varchar 20. This one is L name and it's a varchar 20. Let's say I want to read the first name and last name values. So how do I go about it? So I declare them and I want to read first name, last name values from patient table for patient ID 1002. Okay, this is what I want to do. So what do I need to do here?
Set.
I need to write a select statement. So select legal first name. This is my normal query, legal last name from patient where patient ID is equal 1002. Okay, and now I need to populate these variables. So what I'll do is I'll say F name is equal legal first name at L name is equal legal last name. And finally, I'll say select at F name at L name. Now this is a select, right? So I can print it out in the select statement, something like this. I will see in the table format, both values are being displayed. Okay. Now there is one more nice thing about this select statement is I can supply alias. I can say first name, kind of like what you have available in the SQL, right? In the select statement, you can supply these all different kind of things so that your column names read it properly. So now I can see first name here and last name as Jones. Okay. Obviously, let's take a look at one more example here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to perform one operation on these two variables. Okay. So what I can do is set at full name. So what I have is another variable, declare at full name. And I'll say varchar 40 here. Okay. So my program has three variables now. So set at full name is equal concat at F name space. Remember the syntax yesterday?
Yeah.
At L name. So do you guys remember what this will do? This line?
Yeah, it will join both.
It will join, right? And put it into, so what I'm doing is, my program is now combining the values from two different variables, okay? And putting it into full name variable. So this full name variable will be something like whatever the first name is, space, whatever the last name is. Okay, so instead of printing this separately, I'll say at full name here. And now if I run my program here, so I'm selecting only these three, only my program, and I'll run it. It says Jeremy Jones, something like this. And again, I can say full name here, like that. And it says the full name is Jeremy Jones. Okay. And again, this variable is available in any other statement in your program. So if you have 500 statements, you can use it anywhere in the program, this full name. So that's the power of variable.
And Hashim, at the time of declaring, is it possible for us to declare it like F name, declare at F name, comma?
So here, if you want to declare, just write one declare
At
statement,
L
you
name,
can,
comma, at
yeah, you
name, or
can
do
do
we have
something
to
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. you can do something like this. Declare fname varchar 20, comma, lname varchar 20. And let's say I have only one declare statement. I can do something like that. Add fname full name varchar 40. And it doesn't have to be same line. You can put it on different lines, which is fine. As long as it is separated by comma, you should be okay.
Okay.
Right? This is how you can use one declare statement, declare all the variables. Or you can have multiple declare statements at x, int, whatever. Here you can mix and match at x, int. It will work fine. Okay?
Okay.
There is no issue. Oh, it says, oh, it's already declared. So it's combining, so it's complaining. Okay, x1. All right. Is everybody good?
Yes.
All right, so what I want you guys to do is let's work through some exercise so that at least you get familiar with the syntax. So there are a few exercises here. I want you to work through exercise number 2 and number 2, 3, and 4. Okay, don't worry about number 5 yet. 2, 3, and 4. I want you guys to work through that.
You want to see the value.
Let's get familiar with the syntax. How do you read a value and how you can use it, and then we can discuss.
Herschel, where is the exercise?
It's a part of the, I think page 48, 47, 48.
Sorry, I was out of meeting because my computer got stuck something. So we are doing some exercise.
Yes, that is correct. Page 47 and 48. Okay, so number 2, 3, and 4 on page 47. They're simple variable exercises. I want you to get familiar with the syntax.
Okay.
And work through. We're going to be using the variables a lot going forward. So you will get plenty of exercise.
Okay.
Okay, so this line, so when you run up to here, okay?
Right.
So you declare all the variables, then you are selecting all the values into the variables.
Right.
Right? If you run this, you will not have, it just says command completed successfully.
Right.
Now, what is the reason here is when you are selecting all the values into variables, it just stores those values into the variables. Okay, so there is no output coming out. That is the whole reason you have this select statement if you want to print out the values.
Okay.
So you need to execute that, the last statement as well, so that you can see 1010, Jason Smith, and all those things.
Okay.
This line will just populates the variable. That's all it does.
Okay. Then why are we supplying add patient ID equal to patient ID? Because anyways, we are going to print it in the forthcoming select statement, like select add patient ID as patient ID.
So I'm just, this can be anything, right? As I said, these are just a variable that holds a certain value, right? So I can just have simply ID. So what I'm saying is read this patient ID value and populate into this ID. Okay.
Okay.
Then I'm reading legal first name, populate into first name, legal last name, populate into last name. That's all I'm doing. So I'm reading those 3 columns values. And remember, what is the output if I have a single simple query? It's a one record, right? Wherever the patient ID is 1010, right? So it will have a single record. So I'm reading the value of 3 different columns and populating 3 different variables.
Okay.
Right? And but this one will not do anything good because I don't see that in my program anywhere. But what I want to do is I just want to print it out on the screen here in this line. So that's why I need to select this, write this line as well, so that I can read. I can properly output that in the screen. But ideally, I can do some other operation like have this select at first name plus last name, something like that. Okay, then just output those variables values. So I will see Jason Smith in my program.
You can just have it like select last
what is
name
it?
equal to add first name plus add, I mean full name, select full name equal to add first name plus add last name.
Yeah, you
in
can
case you
certainly
want to-
do say select full name equals at last name, or you can do
Okay.
concat, or
Concat,
you
okay.
can do last name say at first name plus
Yeah.
last name. It will work fine. Okay.
Okay.
But this one is not declared, right? So now I am doing the different variable, or I think you can just do simply this one. Okay, if you are not, you can simply do this type of operation, just like normal columns that you guys are doing, right? Here, if I run this, I'll have Jason Smith, right? Here. Or I can hold into different variable, full name, and those things.
But you have to go and declare that in the statement.
Yeah, then we
right?
have, if you use another variable, that means we have to have it declared earlier.
Declared, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you can use them. Yep.
Okay. Good.
All right. So hopefully you are getting the idea about how to define and how to use it at some point. Okay. I know you haven't done much with the variables yet, but as long as you can print it out using the select statement, read the value from the column and populate the variable, I think that's good enough for now. Okay. Then we'll see. We'll apply the variables a little bit further. So let's move on. So let's dive into the couple of programming concepts. Okay. So what we're gonna do is, so I'm gonna wipe out this program here, and let's write a small program here. So what my program is supposed to do is read a value from patient age column, okay, and then determine based on age. Then based on age, determine whether patient is adult or teenager, okay, or adult or teenager. So now I'm talking about writing a small program and reading that. So if you have to write that logically, so stepwise, what are the things I need to do here? So I need to, this assuming you are writing a program for this one, okay, based on patient's age, determine whether patient is adult or teenager. Okay, so now first thing I need to determine is find out the age of the patient. Let's say a particular patient, 1001. Okay, so particular 1001 patient, I need to read the record. So first of all, I need to write a query. query to read patient age into variable. I'm just writing the logical steps here. Okay, this is my first step. I'm just writing the simple logic here. Okay, then apply some logic, programming logic on age value, and then print out whether it's teenage or adult. Now, how do I go about that? So I check the value, if age is greater than 18, then I can say it's an adult, right? This is my programming logic. If age is less than 18 and greater than 13 or greater than equal to 13, then it's a teenager. Otherwise, if age is less than 13, then child. Okay, so this is what I need to build in my programming logic, something similar to that. Okay, so in any programming language, you're gonna have this problem. You can write this program in SQL, C#, Java, doesn't matter. But this is the same logic that you have to apply to your program. Okay, so how do we go about it? So that is where, so I think you guys all know, right, how to read a value, this line. So we all know, right? And this is for patient 1001, we are saying. Then apply programming logic, okay? And we will apply programming logic using this, basically, this statement here. So here, in the programming world, there are conditional logic. This is called conditional programming logic. So based on certain condition, age is greater than 18, then I am printing out adult. Age is less than 18, and this is a second condition, and this is my third condition. So in the programming logic, you can apply this conditional logic using if else statements. Okay, so no matter what programming language you're gonna use, you will have if and else statements available where you can write some programs using that. Okay, so here, so let me start writing this small program here. So first of all, I'm going to go populate the variable, right? So what I need to do is, so obviously I need to have declare at age, right? And I'm going to declare as an integer. Okay. Then I'll populate the age variable. Select at age is equal age from patient where patient ID is equal 1001. Does it make sense? This this first line,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is what we have now. So that's my up to this line here. Okay, this thing what I have. Okay, this is what I have. Now I need to build the programming logic using if else logical statement. Okay. Now let's see here. If so, in the SQL you have if and else statements, right? So as I mentioned, in the SQL you have to follow certain syntax like any programming language. If you are using C#, you have to do something like this. If, then you're gonna have else. This is a C# or Java programming syntax. Okay. Now in the SQL you don't have those, but you in the SQL what you have is you have a begin and end. So if some programming logic, if some condition here, then you have begin and end. This is where your all the conditional logic goes. Else you will have some, you can have else if some condition, then you have begin and end. Okay, then finally you will have else, then you have begin and end. Okay, so this is the syntax you need to follow. in your programming, basically, for if-else conditions. So if I look at my first condition here, if age is greater than 18, then adult, right? So I will put it here, if at age is greater than 18. This is my first condition. If I do greater than equal to, is it teenager or not? I think it's still considered teenager, right? So I'll say just age greater than 18. Then what I'm trying to print out here, then print adult, right? Then we'll simply print adult, okay? Else if our second condition is this, age is less than 18 and greater than equal to 13. So what I'm gonna do is, else if at age is greater than equal to or greater than 13 and at age is less than or equal to 18, okay? Then I'll say print teenager, and finally print child. Okay, so now, so let's see what the age is here, right? So what output we expect. So let's do print at age right after the select line, so we know whatever value it contains here, and then we'll see whether it's printing our program is running correctly or not. Okay, so if I run this program starting with here to here and see what happens. So it's printing out 60 and adult. Okay, so because we just printed out the age here 60, right? This is what it's printing. This is where the 60 is coming from, and then our program goes into conditional logic. It says age is greater than 18. Yep. Okay, go print 18. Let's do one more. So I'm gonna run with the 1003. Okay, if I run this, oh, okay, so if I run this, the age is 16 and it's printing me teenager. So it comes here, the conditional logic first checks the condition here, and it says, oh, age is not greater than 18. So it will skip this, it will come here, second condition. Then it will check, okay, does it meet these conditions? And it does, then it will say, yep, it meets it, then I'll execute this line of code. So it's printing the teenager. Let's take a look at one more, 1007. Okay, so again, this time the age is 17. It comes here, this one is false. Now when we say condition, right, it either returns true or false, just like conditional logic we are applying in the where clause. If something is true, then return me all the results. Kind of like the same thing here. If something is true, then execute this line of code. If this condition is true, then execute this line of code. Otherwise, execute this line of code. Is everybody good? At least understand what we are logic-wise, how we are implementing it a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is very common, okay? No matter what programming language you're gonna use, you have to build some conditional logic, something similar to that. It could be just a syntax is different, as I mentioned. Instead of begin, you're gonna have parentheses or brackets or whatever, then you're gonna put your conditional logic there, okay?
And instead of the print statement, can we have select at age equal to something?
Yeah, you can execute multiple lines of code here. So select at age, you can do that. Or you can do select, let's say this person is, you can do some formatting at or something like adult. So you can make whatever you want. So here I'm combining two strings, some hard-coded strings, printing out something there. So if I run this for 1001, let's see what the output is. So this person is adult, right? This is what is printing out. So you can execute multiple lines of code. Okay.
Okay.
Here, you can do one more thing. Let's say I want to split it out. If age is greater than 80, right? I can have another if statement. Now I'm looking at nested if statements. So it comes here. Now I want to break it down further. So I can check again if age is greater than 45, then I want to do begin end, or let's say here 65, right? Else begin end. Okay. So here, let's say I want to print out senior. Okay. So my program will come here and it will check again. Is the age greater than 65? After the age is greater than 18, right? Within that, I have multiple condition within that code block. So now it will print senior, or I can say print what is it, middle age, whatever, something like that, or younger, right? So if I run this program, then my program will come here. It will check it. Then again, between this begin and end block, it will execute this if else statement. And then it will check, okay, is this guy greater than 60? Yep. Okay, then it will print senior. Otherwise, print younger. So this is what is happening here. Okay. So this is how you're going to be building the, now, as I said, you're not going to be writing complex scripts as a QA, but you need to get familiar with the concepts here. The reason is that if you end up doing the backend testing, the batch programming, testing, or writing the scripts on your own for the data population or test data, and if you make this mistake, kind of like I'm doing here, so typically what the programmers do mistake-wise is, let's come here. So you have this one. So programmers sometimes doesn't know the much programming, and they will make this mistake. So they will have this code block. Okay. So if I have this program, so what's the output here? Take a look at this program here and tell me what would be the output of this program. And assuming the age is 60 here, right? This is 60. Okay.
It will run the first part.
Okay.
It won't go to the adult or child part at all. It will run,
right?
Because it's greater than 13. First condition is satisfied, it will finish.
Right, it will finish. So even though our intent is to make sure print out adult, because this is most common programming errors, the programmers will not order these conditions properly. So they will put this condition first instead of having the age greater than 18 first. Okay. So this line, so as soon as it reads the value, we know this one contains 60. So it comes here, it checks for, hey, this guy greater than 13, boom, it's a teenager. This is how our program will print. Okay. So when you are building the scripts as well, you have to do certain logic here, or if you are troubleshooting somebody else's script, or you are running somebody else's program, and maybe if you know SQL a little bit more, you can troubleshoot these common errors. Hey, this conditional logic is not correct. Before even you execute, you can spot it basically right there. If I run this program, right, I just ran it, and I'll say 60 teenager here. Okay, so it's very important. The order of condition that you apply is important as well.
So basically, highest number needs to be implemented first.
That is correct. Yeah, that's the logical order. Whatever range you are checking, make sure you put it in the right order. Now, again, that comes with a little bit experience. As a beginner, you might make some mistake, which is okay. That is not a bad thing, as long as you know what type of logic you want to apply here. Okay.
Hey, Harsh.
Yeah.
If we want to go from the lowest age, we can use less than, correct?
So again, what you want to apply, right? You can do something like this, right? You can do that. Again, how you build the program. Okay. So everybody's mind work differently. So depending on how you build the program, your condition needs to change accordingly. And that is where, this is where the unit testing and some testing comes in, right? You supply different values based on running the different records and see if you are getting the different outputs. That's your test data. If I'm doing 1002 and it has an age of 40, I should get whatever the adult is. If I'm running 1005, his age is between 18 and 13, I should get teenager. So that's your test data you need to supply. Make sure that you get the right output from the program. Okay. Is everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so this is a one program. Okay, one programming logic. This is a one way of applying it using the conditional programming logic. Okay, this is called conditional logic using if-else statements. So that's one way. Now, there is a most common programming. There is a second type of programming logic you can apply that is called looping or looping statements. For something, for example, for looping statement, right? Let's say you want to print a name 5 times. Okay, first name and last name 5 times. First name 5 times for a patient. For some reason. So how do you go about printing it 5 times? Obviously, you can do print whatever, read the value, right? So how, if you have to write it, how you can write it? So you read a value, read a first name, then just simply write print statement 5 times, right? So this is a simple way. This is not a programmer's way. Okay, you can do that, but there is a better way of doing that. You can write a mini program that reads the value, and then you build your loop statement so that you can write it, write the statement for 5 times. So let me just quickly write a simple program here. See if you guys can follow it. So what I'm going to do is declare at first name variable, and I will say varchar 20, right? All the variables has to have some value. Then what I will do is I'll read the value. So select at first name is equal legal first name. Okay, from patient where patient ID 1001. Okay, so if I run this query simply, and let me just print out at first name. So right now it will run it and it will print Eric 1 time. Okay, so now what my program is supposed to do is print this value 5 times. Okay, instead of writing the same print statement 5 times, I'm going to build a small program here. And what I can do is there is a looping logic you can build using the while clause. Just like a if else, you have while. So what the while does, you supply the condition here. So let's say if some condition, and what our condition is supposed to be, loop over 5 times, right? Okay. This is what we are trying to do, loop over 5 times. So we need to write a condition. So as long as this condition is true, okay, then it will go in the loop, and then it will execute the print statement 5 times. This is what we are trying to do. So what is the condition I can supply here? So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define a simple variable called at I and as an integer, okay, and then I'll setting the value as select at I is equal 1. Okay, so now I'm initializing this variable and setting it the value as 1, and here in the loop I'll say at I is less than 6. Okay, then execute this statement basically. So let's see here. So I read the value, right? This is pretty much clear to everybody.
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm declaring another variable called I, and I'm setting the value to 1, initial value to 1. Okay. And here in the while loop, I'm specifying a condition at I is less than 6. Okay. So first time when I run the program, this one will have 1. So it will check 1 is less than 6. Yep. It's 1 is less than 6. Then it will go in the loop and it will execute this line of code. And then it will come here and it will check again the value. So here, what will be the value? Again, it's a 1, right? So what our program needs to do is we want to print only 5 times. Okay. So what I will do is at I is equal at I plus 1. So I will write 2 statements. First to print it and then increment the value of this variable by 1. So first time it comes here, its value is 1. It comes here, it will print the statement. Then it will set the value to 2. So it comes back and checks the condition in the while clause. So 2 is less than 6. It will again go in the loop, print this value. Second time, come here and increment the value 3, 4, 5. Now for the 5th time, it will come here and increment to 6, right? So it prints 5 times, then comes here. This value is 6, checks the condition here. The value is not less than 6, right? 6 is less than 6 is false. So if it's false, it's going to exit out of the loop and it will stop the program afterwards. Okay. So if I execute this program, I should see Eric being printed 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And let's do one thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say print I so that we can see what the value I contains as well. Okay. At the same time. So if I run this program, I'll see Eric 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And finally, the value is 6. So we are printing before the setting the value, right? So let me come here and write this statement afterwards. So I know I'm going to print the value of at I afterward it's incremented so that I know it will be what the value will be. Here it's 6. And that is the same reason 6 is not less than 6. So this is false. It's going to exit out of the program. All right, any question?
What will happen if we will write in this statement set at the rate of y is equal to at the rate of I plus 1 instead of 1 if we are going to put 4?
I'm not sure if I understood your question.
Okay, instead of like, because the value of I is 1. So like 1 plus 4, that becomes 5. So
what you are saying is, should I increment the value to like 4?
no, I'm saying instead of adding 1, if we are going to add 4, then that
here?
will, yes.
Yeah, so how many times? So let's take a look at the logic. So how many times each will print?
2.
1 time.
Twice. When it's 1 and when it's 5.
So for first time, right, it will come here, it's a 1. So it checks 1 is less than 6. Yep, it comes here, prints it, right?
Yeah.
Then this line of code gets executed and it will be 5. 1 plus 4 is 5, right? So it prints 5, come here, 5 is less than 6. So it comes here, so print second time, then it will check it. So then the value will become 9, right? Because we are adding 4 this time. So 9 is less than 6, it's not less than 6, right? So it will print twice, this program. So if we run this, I'll see Eric and Eric only twice.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Any other question? So the syntax, right? Syntax wise is pretty straightforward, whether you have while or if, right? So you have some condition you are supplying, then you have begin and end, and then you are writing the statement in the middle. So as long as this condition is true, these statements will get executed. That is what we are doing, our program is doing. Now one common mistake, right? Most of the people makes is they don't put this line of code. So how many times this value gets printed? Assuming I don't have this set statement.
1.
1 time.
One time. What others think?
It will keep on going, never ending.
Never ending, right? It will keep on going, okay, because we are not incrementing value, right? So it will come here and this value will always be 1. So this condition will never become false. So it will keep on printing and ultimately it will chew up the memory on the computer and it will crash your program, crash your computer. If you let it run, after 1 hour, you will see like a blue screen because it will run out of memory, your computer. Okay.
Is there any way to find out if when that's happening, and how do you
Yeah,
stop
only
it?
way you can find out is have a mistake and run your program through.
And how to stop it when that?
You just have to reboot the computer or basically kill the program, SQL Server. But problem is that when you're running a script, it's already running. Since your machine is a SQL Server itself, it will keep on running even if you close out this window. Okay, your program is still executing in the memory. So that is the most common mistake in the while loop. Yeah, the best way is to stop the SQL Server and start over. It's going to clear out all those things and work through that. Okay, so if I run this, we have that. Okay, I want to cover one more programming logic here. So this is while and end. All right, and I'll let you guys work through some exercise as well. So you guys will get familiar with it. Let me show you one more thing. So we looked at the if else, we looked at while. There is another statement called case statement. Okay, case statement in SQL Server. This is also used for programming. Okay, so let me run a simple query. Select star from demographics. All right, let's see demographics. Maybe demographic. No. All right, maybe I'm making mistakes. So let's see. Okay, so I guess it's a typo in the name. Okay, so here in this table, right, we have a gender and marital status. Okay, what if I want to programmatically return different values? Instead of M, I want to return, because these are kind of like a codes, right? But the user they don't understand the code. They want to see gender M equals male or male instead of M, or F equals female, something like that. Okay, so that is where you can use the case statements to change the values on the fly in your queries. So you can write some programming logic for that. Okay, so what I can do is I can write a query something like this: select gender. So you have to use the case statement, right? The syntax for the case statement is this is the syntax: case, then you have field name, and then you can have when some value. Okay, then some other value. Okay, case when some value, then you want to display some other value. Okay, so this is a typical statements, and you can have multiple when statements. When some value, then some other value, and finally you can have end in the case statement. Okay, you can also have a else here, else some value, some other value. So if none of this condition matches in the value, then you want to have some other value. That is the syntax. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a syntax here. Case is not that complex. Okay, just like if and when, it's a straightforward. So here I will say select case gender. Okay, so I'm selecting the case for gender. Now when value is M, then male. Okay, so this is my first case statement. When F, then female, else other. Okay, and then finally I will have end statement. Now I will still need to have from patient. Okay, let's see what I did wrong in the syntax. No, I think I have correct syntax. Case gender when M, then male. All right, let me run it. Maybe it's not. Oh, what is the column name? Oh, from patient. Okay, that's what it is. Demographics, right? Because this query is for demographics. So if I run this, so I will get male, female instead of M or anything else. Okay. Now, again, you see this column does not have any name. So this is more like a calculated column. Okay, this becomes a calculator. So you can apply alias call gender again or anything else, gender, full gender. Let me make a full gender. Then comma, now I'm going to select gender. I'm going to select patient ID and whatever else that you want to select. Okay, so I can run this query so that I can see it. So M is translated into male. This one has male, F is female. Now this is very helpful when you're writing your queries and you are on the screen, right? On the any application, you typically see the full value instead of the gender value, like a short code or something like that. So this is where the case statement is used to translate the one value into another value. Okay, I can do anything here, X, Y. Okay, I can write it that way, so it will translate into X and Y's instead of M. So this is whatever value you want to specify. Okay, that's what I mean. So that is a syntax for that. Okay. Any question on the case statement? All right, so what I want you guys to do is, anybody has a question?
You don't have a begin, right? It's
Yeah,
just
this one,
end.
this one is strictly in the select statement. You don't have begin and end. It's strictly case, gender, and then end at the end. Yes, the syntax does not have a begin. Like a while has a begin here, right? This one, kind of like this is a generic syntax for while. This is generic syntax for if else logic, right? But this one does not have begin and end. It has a specific syntax. Okay. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is, if you don't have any question, let's work through the begin, if and else, programming logic, those exercises.
Okay.
If and else, okay? Not the gender one. If you are done early, then just finish up a gender. It's a very small one, case statement. But let's focus on if else and while loop, and try to understand as well. I think they are on page 49 and 50.
So we are practicing if else 49 or
49 and 50. 50 is a while loop. You can work through example number 2 for the while loop. Okay, I want you to understand example number 2 and tell me how many times it's going to print it and work through that for the while. Okay. So far, whatever we are doing right now, you guys are actually writing small programs. Okay. So this is our program or script. You can call it a script as well. Okay. And what we are doing is when we are declaring the variable with the @ symbol, right? This is how you can declare a variable with the @ symbol. So these variables are available as long as your script runs, right? This variable, you can use it within your script anywhere. This variable is not accessible from a different script. So if I have multiple scripts, so for example, let me just put it how you can make it multiple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do go statement here. So what go will do is it will mark the end of the program. Okay, so it will execute this code block and then it will start a new code block for the program, something like this is my different program. Okay, so if I try to reference the variable that is declared in my first program, it will throw me an error. Okay, if I run it, it will throw me an error. Okay, so let me just go ahead and do that. Run it. It says the variable is not declared. This variable is complaining. Even though I have it in the, I'm thinking that I have it declared in the same program. So what this scope of the variable says is it's a local variable scope. Okay, so variable, every variable has a scope. Scope meaning where you can access from. So here, local variables with one @ symbol. You can access only from your program, only from your program. So you cannot access from any other program, from other programs or other scripts. So meaning as soon as I put a go here between two scripts, this script ends right here. If I remove the go, okay, it's my same script and I can run it. It should run fine without any problem. It's complaining about this line, ending block. Okay, so my program is executed, no problem. I can see all those messages. It did not complain. But if I want to end the script here, I can say go. So this code block is a one script. Now this code block is a second script. And these variables, whatever I had defined in first script, because they are local variables, they are accessible only through first script. Okay, I cannot access from the second script anymore. Okay, so that is a local variable. So variable has a scope and depending on where you can access from the program. Now, how do I make it accessible through other program? So what if I want to access, I have this go and I want to access from the different script. So I can declare a global variable called test and say varchar 20. Okay. And let's say I'm assigning some value at test is equal test. So this is in my first script. Now this test, I should be able to access it from the second script as well. Let's see here. So I declare it local variable, global variable. I should be able to run it. Let's see. Give me a second. Okay, let's see what is wrong here. The test. Let's Google it quickly. A global variable is available in just like any other program. You have it available. So let's take a look at example here quickly. I think there is a restriction here. These are local variables. I want to find the global variable definition here. Okay, so how to create them? Let me just go. I think the syntax is the one that I'm getting issue with that particular. So there are different ways. Global. So there is some special mechanism we have to do. But I thought there is a simple way we can declare it. Let me figure out the example, proper example for this one. Okay. But what the scope it says is, as soon as you have it as a global variable, you can declare from anywhere in your programs, basically multiple programs. That's a concept. Now, the one that I wanted to show you was, typically you will not declare many global variables, okay? And in your scripts, you will hardly declare maybe one or two. If your specific case would be the username and password, and that's where you might end up using the global variables. But other than that, you will not be using global variable because they hang in the memory as long as the SQL server is running. Okay, so the difference between global local variable is local variables, the memory is cleaned up after your program ends. The global variables hangs in the memory as long as the SQL server is running. So it stores in the memory forever. Okay, maybe that's the reason that my syntax is not allowing me here. So I'll figure out and let you guys show you the example for that. So why do we need to talk about global variable, right? So here, there are several built-in global variables that SQL Server comes with. And these are the important ones, okay? And I'll show you example quickly. Where do we use that? But let's understand what those are first. So there are two most important ones. First one is at identity. And how can you tell it's a global variable? It has two at symbols, okay? And these are built-in global variables. SQL Server have a lot of built-in global variables, okay? At identity is one of them. At row count is a second one of them. So let me show you example of at row count. So let's say I'm writing a simple select statement, patient, okay? And I'm getting the result. But what if I want to know how many records I have in my query is returning? What do you do typically? You guys actually go here in the messages and you see here message, right? This is more like a print statement. So SQL or server automatically executes the print statement here. Okay, so it shows you 12 rows affected, errors, basically some message when you run the query. Okay, but what if I want to do something with that number, the 12, whatever the number of records? How do I get handled to this 12? Okay, so you can do either select count, right? You can do select count star from patient, run another query. You can get 12. Okay. Or there is a simple way. I can do something like at select at row count. As soon as I do that, this variable is highlighted in the pink. It's a built-in global variable available in the SQL Server. And I can run this query and it will show me number 12, okay, without executing the count query. And this is very helpful variable, and we'll see as we go through when we write a little bit more scripting and procedures, okay? So just for now, remember that it gets you the total number of records affected by whatever query you execute just above this line, okay? So if I have a second query, select star from demographics, or let's say patient address, and then I can do at row count. So I know how many records are being written from this query, okay? So first query will have 12, second query will also have 12. Let's see if I do something different here. Maybe do major illness. Okay, so let's run that, see if I get a different number here. Maybe I have all the same records here. Start from major illness. Let's see here. So this one has the same value as a count star. Okay, so this is one usage. Now, one thing you can do is, so this variable is available right below the line for the statement that you are trying to execute. So if you have another statement here, maybe select something else or do something else, maybe update statement or something. This one will contain whatever the previous statement is executing. Okay, so if update statement is affecting one record, then this one will contain 1 in there. Okay, so just need to be, and we'll see practical example of that pretty soon. So that is the one global variable, very helpful variable. And the second variable is at identity. Okay, so what this variable is, this is a variable that contains the value of identity, value of last record inserted, basically. So for example, we are inserting into patient, right? And we are saying SSN. What is our query here? Let me just go quickly, copy the query here. So that I don't need to type it in. Okay, so let's go here, quickly copy. So I'm going to copy this guy. Okay, so let's understand what this one does. And I'm going to make sure it's a unique. Okay, so here I'm running this query. It says 1 record affected, right? But what if I want to figure out the patient ID of this record that is just being inserted? So how do I go about it? So I could simply do something like this: select patient ID from patient where SSN is equal whatever the value is here, right? This is a one way of doing it, so that I can get the patient ID of that patient, which is 1014. But this one requires you writing another query. So how do I go without writing a query? So that is where this identity global variable comes in the picture. Okay, so here, right below the insert statement, if I execute select at identity, this statement, this value contains this, the variable value will have whatever the identity value was inserted into patient ID column. Okay, so this one will automatically capture that. So if I go here, do 4598, and if I run this, I will get 1015 automatically. Okay, so this is very helpful um, for the identity. Suppose our insert statement also includes populating into demographics. Okay, and let's see what we have in the demographics. So we have 4 columns, right? So I'm going to insert patient ID, birth date, gender, marital status. Okay, what I can do is, okay, and values. So I can put birth date as 12/1/2000. Gender is M. Marital status is S. Okay. Now in the patient ID column, right? Because I need to insert some value in the patient ID, and I want to make sure I link it up to the patient as well. So what I can do is I can simply have this variable, use this value that is here and put it into this variable. Now simply what you can do is you can't simply use the identity to insert the value. So what we can do is, let me go and declare one value called ID, integer. And what I'll do is set at ID is equal identity. Okay. So now I'm storing the value after the insert statement into some variable, in some ID variable, and I'm using that ID variable to populate the demographics table. Remember, it's a relational, right? We are talking about relational database here. So what we are saying is, as soon as I insert patient, I'm going to read the value of the patient ID from the identity global variable, store it into some local variable, and then use this local variable to populate patient ID into demographics. Is everybody with me? Let me run this example so that it makes a little bit more sense. So I change the value to unique, okay? And I'm going to run my script here. Now it says 2 records, 1 record affected here and 1 record inserted into demographics table. So if I run this query here, patient where patient ID is equal, let's use our normal query. Select star from patient where patient ID is equal at ID. Because we linked up both records, right? And now I'm writing 2 more SQL statements. Right below the insert statement, select star from patient where patient ID equals at ID. So whatever value is contained, so I will get the records from actually demographics where patient ID equals at ID. So I'll get the records from there. Let me go ahead and change this one to 80. And let's run this. So my tables are linked. Okay, now my tables are linked. So I inserted this record. I got the patient ID here. Right after the insert statement, I read the patient ID and put it into some variable in my program. Then I wrote another insert statement and used this variable to populate the patient ID in the demographics table. Okay, and then I'm writing the SQL statement to pull the value of the patient record so that I know it populated correctly. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
Any question? Okay. So what if I want to do patient bill in my query, in my script? So this is my script now, okay? This is my program, little program. this is how we populate the actual relational database. Okay, so here, let's go back here, this diagram.
Harshal, is this a global variable only for the primary key that's been specified, or?
Any key that is an identity column. Typically, you will have one identity column in your tables, and generally this is available for, and it's a single value. Okay, so it will contain whatever is the previously inserted identity value is there. So typically you have identity columns on the primary keys. So here in our scenario, patient ID is identity, right? So this is where how we are reading the value that is populated into identity column and storing into some other variable. Now, why I'm doing that? Because as soon as this value is populated, as soon as I have the insert statement executed, if I have anything, any line in the middle, select star from patient, then this value will be gone. It's empty. Okay, so this value is only available right below the insert statement. So your select at ID statement has to be below insert statement so that you can read the value and populate in the some other variable. Once you do that, once you store it into local variable, then it's available anywhere in the program. But this identity column is available only right below the insert statement only. Okay, so that's the reason I have this line of code right below the insert statement. Did you have any other question, Ardi?
Oh, no, Harshal.
Okay. What if I want to populate patient bill? Right, so we populated patient table, we populated demographics. How do I go about patient bill table? All right, this diagram does not have it. I think there is one more diagram here, right? So I have this patient bill. So how do I change my script to populate this one here? So again, I'm going to write one more insert statement, right? And let's see, patient bill ID, patient ID, visit date, bill amount. Okay, bill amount and paid. Okay, now I'm going to say value. Let's see how you can populate here, right? So for now, let's say we put some zero value in the patient bill ID for now. Patient ID, we can use the variable to link up with the original patient, right? So I'm going to use the ID variable and populate it here. Visit date, let's put 12/1/2020. Okay, bill date is again 12/5/2020. Bill amount is 50, and it's not paid, so I'll say 0. Okay, now let's understand how we get the bill ID. How do we populate bill ID? So for that, I'm going to write a simple query. And let's check a definition of the table. To see if it's identity column or not. Okay, the what our ID is. So I'm looking at patient bill ID. This one is a big integer, right? It says no identity column defined. Okay, that means we have to supply some value when we do the insert statement. It is a primary key, but there is no identity column. So unlike patient, we have to supply the value here. So if I run this query, so highest value is 18. So if I supply value of 19, my query, since it's a unique value, my query should run fine after that. Okay, so let's go through the script one more time here. See what we are building here. So I have declaring the value of some ID, inserting into patient. Then I am populating the ID variable from the identity column so that we can read it for the whatever the patient ID value was inserted. Then I'm executing insert statement and I'm using the ID variable for the patient ID linkage. Okay. Same with insert into patient bill. Here I'm hard coding some value 19, but I'm using the ID column, ID value, global variable, local variable, populating into patient ID. And then finally, I'm going to add one more select statement from patient bill, where patient ID is equal at ID. So I know all, so these three statements are just for reading the values. Okay. We can end our script here and there is no impact. So here my script ends. Then I'm executing these three statements. Actually, we have to have it because otherwise we have to supply these ID values. So let's just go and put it as part of the script. So let me run this script. It's throwing the unique key error. So when I run this, I have three records. One coming from the patient, second is from the demographics, and third one is from the patient bill. And they all are linked up with the same patient. Okay, so this is how you can link up, create the foreign key, primary key, and populate proper data in the multiple tables together. And you have to use this identity column global variable to read the identity values. Any question before I show you one more thing? Okay, I'll let you guys work through this exercise, okay, so that you guys will understand. Let me show you one more thing.
Achal?
Yeah.
Can you show the code below insert patient bill?
Here?
Yeah.
Right? It's just a simple select statements, right? I'm just selecting from three different tables, but now in the queries, I'm using this ID variable, whatever I have defined earlier. So my script is dynamic. So I'm not hard coding any, like instead of saying patient ID 1019 or anything like that, I'm just using that ID because this value will change. As I insert new records, this value will change. I don't have to change my script to populate that.
Okay.
Okay. That's the reason I'm using these IDs everywhere. So let's come back and see in the patient bill. Okay. So this one, I'm hard coding the 19. So now if I run this query, my script is not 100% dynamic yet. Okay. So now the 19 record is inserted. If I want to run it for a different patient, then I will get an error here because it will throw an error on this line because this value is already used. You cannot insert same value when you create a patient bill record. Is everybody clear? Right? So how do I make it dynamic, this value dynamic? So as you guys remember, right? How do I find out the max value of this column? Do you guys remember what do we use? If I want to get a max value from the patient bill ID column, how do I go about it?
Select max of.
Right? So I can write a query something like this. Select max patient bill ID from patient bill, right? This is my query.
From.
Patient bill ID. No, from is incorrectly spelled. Okay. So if I run this, I'll get 19. So as long as I can get this value, right, 19, and I can increment by 1 automatically next time when I run this script, then I won't worry about it. Is that correct?
Mm.
So I can programmatically calculate the maximum value and put some logic here in my script. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do is, this is how I'm going to put my logic. So I have this max value. If I do max plus 1, right? So let's see what value it gives. It gives me 20, right? So if I store this value into some variable and use that variable to populate here, then my script will run just fine. So let me go and do that. So what I'm gonna say is declare at bill ID. You can name it whatever you want, right? But you can't name it same as other variables. So make sure your variable names are unique within your script. Okay, so declare at bill ID integer and select at bill ID is equal max patient ID plus 1. So what this value will contain if I print it? So it will contain 20, should print 20, right? So now I know my variable contains value of 20. Now I can simply go and use that variable here. Okay, so this is how my script looks. Once I'm finished with my script. So again, go back from the top right, this part, just to get the ID of the patient. Then we are using into demographics. Then I'm putting some more logic for the billing, bill ID calculation, and then populating into bill. And finally, I'm just printing out all 3 records together. Okay, so let's go and make some unique here. And now I'm going to run my script. This is my complete script here. Hopefully you guys can see it. This is the whole script, right? There is nothing there. And if I run it, now I automatically add 20 here, 10, 20, whatever patient ID, they all are linked. And if I run it again with another unique SSN, I'll get 21, right? This is automatically incremented. Okay. Is everybody good?
So basically, max as syntax is used to see the highest value in a particular table.
Yeah, plus I'm incrementing it, right? By 1.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like a simulating the identity column, basically, because patient bill ID is not identity, right? So we have to input it programmatically by calculating the value using this logic. That's what I'm doing. And then I'm storing into the variable, local variable, and using that local variable here. See, for patient, we don't have to do anything because it's identity, so it will automatically increment by 1 based on the definition of the table. But here in this table, it's not identity column, so we have to supply it like this. In the demographics, this is not identity, but again, we don't have to increment anything here. It needs to be same as patient ID, so this is straightforward, demographics. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other question on this script? Any question on the identity column, how it works? Or how you implement this logic? Okay. If not, so let's work through one example, one exercise. Okay. For the identity column, I want to make sure you guys get to at least that exercise. So I have this exercise here. Let's work through that. It's a simple 2 table. You have patient and demographics. See how you can link it up.
Okay.
Okay, and make sure you execute it as well. And if you want, I can leave this as well. If you want to work through this one, this example,
Yeah.
I'll leave this on. You can follow the same one.
Okay.
The only thing I added part is this logic. Okay. In this script, you have only 2 tables. Here we have 3 tables. Now I can apply all the same logic, similar logic to other tables and populate everything. Basically, I have 10 different tables. I can apply the similar logic, go one by one. And this is how we create the relational. This is how we link up the tables in the script. Okay, let's work through that. Whichever one, if you guys want to work through my example or work through the other example, is perfectly fine.
Okay.
Harshal, what are we doing?
So you're following the example here, right? The identity column example. So you can follow the example in the book, or you can follow the example that I have here. Okay, it does the similar thing, but on the screen that I'm showing is I have a little bit more logic for patient bill.
Yeah.
As I said, you can start small, maybe do 2 tables first, and then go and come back and add the 3rd table in the logic.
In the book, which page it is? The example?
I believe it's a 51.
Okay. And in my patient table, I don't have the 12 record. Does it matter?
Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter because you're going to be inserting this way, like additional records. So your number will be different than other people.
Harshal, going back to the previous question that I had before the class.
Okay.
So if I'm practicing inner join, left join, right join, and total join.
Okay.
I know you had inserted couple of values. In my current patient record, I have only 10 values and you have 12 values. How do I insert those?
The same way I have it here, right?
You insert into what all tables? Is it just the patient? Or?
Yeah, just a patient. That's all you need. Just a patient table. You need to create a couple of records. And that your lab join will start working afterwards. Or basically lab join will start returning the proper results.
Okay. And also do I need to do anything in the patient address?
You don't actually. Yeah, you don't. Just a patient table.
Okay. I have 2 more, right? So I have to have 12 total records.
No. You don't have to have 12. I mean, as long as you have one patient that doesn't have values in the other tables, you're fine. So just one patient should be good enough.
Okay.
Yep. Is anybody using mine, or you guys are following the screen? I mean the book.
I'm
Example.
trying to use what you have typed here.
Okay.
I'm getting one error. I'm not sure.
Just double click the error, and it will take you to the line.
Says incorrect syntax near keyword values.
So which line is that on yours?
Last line.
Here.
Insert India. Yeah, that one. Yep.
So just look at it at bill ID, at ID. Make sure the at symbols and all those things are proper. Is anybody else getting the error?
Yeah, even I'm also getting the error.
What line you are getting the error on?
So first, insert into DBO patient that I inserted, but when I'm running with demographics fully, it's showing the error.
Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop the screen mine. Okay. Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
Okay. So here, let me see, declare at ID integer, dbo.patient, you have that values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this one is correct. Unique key constraint, right? So
Yeah.
this value, you have to supply uniquely the SSN value.
Okay.
Yeah, it says the duplicate key value is 2224585.
I have to supply other value.
Yep, you have to run every time you run it, right? You have to have a new value, which is unique in your table. That's what the error is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah.
Then second one, so I have to run it full, right? Or
Yeah. Otherwise, if you have a half script, then make sure you select only up to whatever the code you think is working correctly. Okay.
so declare at ID in this should be there, right? For second one demographic.
Yeah, you need to have complete, or you can just select like something like this. If you think these statements are complete, then select those and run it.
But I get the same one.
What's the error? Read the error.
Violation of unique key constraint.
Yeah, so you have to go and make sure you change it to increment by 1. Every time you run it, you have to change the value.
So where should change?
In the values like a SSN column value, right? This is what the value is. This is what you need to change.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. So every time and no matter whenever you run it, you make sure you have a unique value in your table. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Harshit?
Yeah.
When I tried to run the query that you gave us, the first patient ID was 1013. The first time when I ran the query, the patient ID was 1013.
Okay.
The second time, what I did was I tried to change the SSN and the name in the insert statement,
Mhm.
and I tried to run the query. And right now it's 1015.
Right, because you must have some error in the middle. So if you have error, that number is gone. The identity value is already incremented by 1. So for example, let's say I have it 6 right here.
Yeah.
From patient, okay. So I have value is, what is the max value? Max patient ID. Okay. So I'm going to find out what is my max. 1021, right? You can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now if I run this, it ran fine. So it's 1022. But if I run it again, 2023, 2024, okay. Let me go and make it unique now. And if I run it, so this one will be 1026 instead of being in the sequence. So now I run the max one or 1025. So other two numbers are skipped. So if you have any error running your queries, the identity already used that number. So it will skip that number already. So my last number was 1021, right?
Yeah.
So now it's at 1025. So I skipped like 3 numbers. If I look at it, 25 and 22. So 23 and 24 are skipped.
Okay, so why is that it is?
It's just identity. The way it works is if you get an error inserting, it's already going to use up that number, then it will move on to the next one. So even though in the case of error inserting,
Okay.
that's how the SQL identity works. So it's not going to be 100% sequential every time.
Oh, okay. So, but still the output is right, even
Yeah,
though
output
the.
is correct. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Output will be correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is everybody good?
Yeah.
You guys, who is still working through it?
Yes.
Okay. Other people are done almost?
I got the output, but I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
So we inserted a record in the patient, and then the other codes in demographics and patient bill. I'm trying to figure out how the last part that you mentioned, where you link to the primary key, how inserted. I'm not clear.
Yeah. So here in the demographics, right? So this is our in standard insert statement, right? So instead of the hard coding the value, we are using this variable at ID and putting that linking up with the patient ID column. So whatever this value contains, now what value it will contain? If I execute this statement, it will contain whatever the patient ID was inserted for this record. Okay, that's what the identity column, this global variable will have. So we are reading that value and storing into at ID, so that we can use it in any statement, insert statement, for linking up with the other tables.
And identity, that line, the one in the pink identity.
Yeah.
How does it gets that value from the patient? What tells it to get that value?
Yeah. So this is a built-in global variable in the SQL server.
Okay.
So it comes with the SQL server. That's a feature. So it will automatically read the value that is inserted into this patient table, whatever the last
patient
identity.
ID.
Yeah.
That is patient ID,
Yep,
right?
that is correct, because patient ID is the only one with the identity column.
Okay, that's the primary key. It gets
Yep.
that, and
Yep.
then we
Then
link that to, okay.
By using this variable, which will contain whatever the patient ID value is, and then inserting into demographics.
Okay, yeah. And then the declare build ID is select bill ID max. That one I'm not.
So this one, since patient bill table does not have identity column, okay? So patient bill ID is a primary key, right? But it's not identity column. So we have to simulate or calculate the next value in line in the sequence programmatically. So this logic here will calculate the next value for the patient bill ID. So what I'm using is find what is the max, whatever the max value is in the patient bill ID plus increment by 1 and then store into this variable. And then use this value to insert into the record, in the patient bill record.
Okay. And it gets the patient ID, same ID.
Yep. And the patient ID is again same, right? The second column is patient ID. So I'm inserting because I need to link up which patient this patient bill belongs to.
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense.
Got it? Okay. So if you have to add more tables, you can use the same logic. I think most of the tables you have to use this logic, patient bill type of logic, because other tables, I don't think anything is identity, but you can figure out which one is identity by going to the table definition and see if whatever the primary key is identity or not. If not, then use this logic to calculate the next value, next max ID value, and then populate it. So this is how you can write one script that does all the work. Now, as you see, this script, we have a lot of hard-coded values, right? So every time we run it, we have to go manually update some values. So in the next session, we'll see how we can make it more dynamic, how we can get rid of all these dynamic values, hard-coded values, and pass to the script as more like arguments or parameters, and then so that we don't have to. We just execute the script by sending different values. Okay, so those are kind of called the procedures. So that's what we will talk about in the next session. So I think we are almost at 12:55. So let me talk about the homework. Okay, what you guys gonna do?
Okay, Harsha?
Yeah.
So in a table where there is no patient ID, in the same example, wherever there is no patient ID, we have to manually calculate with that program.
That is correct. Right? Not the patient ID, but you have to look at it. What is that index identity? Is there an identity column for the index record or not? Okay, that's where you have to use that. Remember, I showed you the one small command. You can say patient bill, right? And this one will give you the definition of the table. Okay, so it will print out something like this and you can see patient bill ID here, right? Here it says there is no identity column defined in the table. Okay, now primary key, you can see primary key, and what is the primary key is patient bill ID here, all the way there. Okay, so that's how I know, okay, this table does not have an identity column. So I have to build some logic to populate, kind of like get the max value and do that. Now, if I go and execute on the patient table, then you can see the difference. So in this table, okay, everything is good up to here. And here in the next one, identity says patient ID column is identity and seed is 1000, increment is 1. So it's a sequential number, increments by 1. And that's so we know, okay, when we insert, we want to make sure we insert, get it from the identity variable at identity and populate the value when kind of like that. Okay, so that's how I know which one to use, where do I need to put what logic in my script. I think if we look at the insurance table, okay. So again, insurance ID, there is no identity column. So you have to build this max logic, okay, populate there. I think pretty much all the tables, you don't have any identity column in other tables. So you have to build the logic something similar to this. All right, let me talk about the homework. So let's talk about the first one. Okay, so for a given range, so what you guys will do is declare two variables, okay, and set the initial value. Set values like 5 and maybe 10, okay, something like that. Now you have to loop through, then you have to loop through between 5 and 10, and then print whether it's a even number, even or odd number. Okay, that's a logic. So use while logic, okay, and you have to use some conditional logic as well. I want you guys to think it through and see what you guys come up with. If you have to Google it, just go Google it. Make sure you understand the program. Okay. I think if you Google it, find print odd, even and odd number, something like this, and go SQL Server script, then you will see the logic. Okay. So get familiar with that. This one is, I want you guys to define 3 variables. Okay. Define 3 integer variables, then calculate average. Okay, so you have to build some logic around it. How do you calculate average? You need to think it through. Add those numbers and divide by 3, just and then print the average. Then print average. This is a simple one. Okay, this program is a simple one, no complexity. And the third program, calculate tax based on following metrics. Okay, so you have one variable called gender. Second variable, okay, let me give you some here to define 2 variables, gender as varchar 10, and then income as number or integer. Okay, so these are 2 variables. Then use conditional logic and figure out and print out text. Print out text based on following range. So here I gave you the range here. So if income between 10,000 and 30,000, then print tax is 10%. If income between 30 and 60,000, then print tax is 20%. If income is between is greater than, then print tax is 30%. And let's not worry about, actually, let me get rid of the gender. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of the gender question here. So you have one variable. Okay. So hopefully you guys can use this logic and print it out, right? Any question on the homework? No question? All right, so I'll send you guys homework in the email. And all right, and what we'll do is we'll continue on Thursday evening, okay? And let's see what you guys come up with the homework. And then I think we're gonna need 2 more sessions, probably 3 hours each next weekend. Okay, and then we can wrap up the other things. All right, then I think we can break for today then.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
What is it? Anybody has question?
Can you share the session yesterday's video session?
Yes, yeah, I need to upload it. I have it basically in the recording. I just need to upload it on the YouTube. I'll send you guys. It might take me like a couple of hours to upload because they are like a bigger files. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll start uploading and I'll send you the link afterwards.
Hey, Harshal?
Yeah.
Once everybody drops, can I still have a question on how to add the value for practicing left join and right join?
Yeah. Why don't you stick around and we can chat. Okay. All right.
Sorry,
Everybody
what
else
is the
can-
timing on Thursday? What time?
I think we can do it if you guys are available early. I don't know. Raghu, are you available? How early you can make it on Thursday?
Thursday, 6:15, 6:30 is good. Like if
Okay. Can you make it like 6?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just plan 6 to maybe 7:30. Okay. Something like that. I don't think we'll need like a full thing. Hopefully
Okay.
you guys can work through at home and then we can review and correct the script.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
So that's the plan. So it probably, we might just need 1 hour or 1.5 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
then. See you guys Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Okay. All right, Raghu. See what you got. Can you share your screen?
Yeah. Can you see it?
Yeah. Just expand your screen a little bit because I don't see the fully. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what is your question, Raghu?
I'm trying to insert a record for patient. That way I can practice the left join.
Oh, I think you already did, right? If you ran the script here, that means you already have a few records.
Select from patient. So if I run this, execute. So I have 12. Okay. So there is null.
Yeah. Yeah, that is correct. Yep.
Okay. Now, in the book, so if I'm trying to join that join where.
So you are talking about major illness, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just join with the major illness, basically using that. And these are the 2 records that's supposed to show up if you use lab join. But make sure you specify the condition like illness type is null, something like that.
So select major illness and so execute.
Yeah, see if you look at major illness, right? You don't have 10, 11, 10, what is that, 10, 12, you don't have it, right?
I
Patient
do
ID.
have patient ID is yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Right?
So in case of patient table, there is
11 and 14. Yep.
11 and 14. 10, 11, 10, 10, 14.
Yep.
And
Should
that
show
is,
up in your lab join queries.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. So okay.
Cool.
That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Sure. All right. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.